So hello everyone, in this audio class we will discuss the 20 most important questions from the chapter International Trade from the book Fundamentals of Human Geography. These questions will be very much important for your upcoming KVS and NVS Geography. So let's get started with the question number 1. What is international trade? So international trade refers to the exchange of goods and services between different countries. It is considered the economic barometer of a nation because it reflects the level of economic development and interdependence among countries. Trade occurs because countries differ in their resource base, technology, labor force, climate, and level of development. For example, India exports pharmaceuticals, software services, tea, and textiles, while it imports crude oil, gold, and advanced machinery. Thus, international trade helps countries obtain goods that they cannot produce efficiently themselves. Next question: why do countries engage in international trade? So, countries participate in international trade because no country is completely self-sufficient. The major reasons are difference in natural resources, difference in climate, differences in technology, differences in labor productivity, differences in demand and supply. For example, Saudi Arabia exports petroleum because it has abundant oil reserves. Japan imports petroleum but exports automobiles and electronic goods because of its advanced technology. Thus, trade is based on specialization and comparative advantage. Next question: what is the difference between internal trade and international trade? So, internal trade occurs within the political boundary of a country, and international trade occurs between different countries. International trade involves customs duties, foreign exchange, international laws, and political relations. Trade between Kolkata and Mumbai is internal trade. Trade between India and Bangladesh is international trade. Next question: why is international trade called the economic barometer of a nation? So, international trade reflects the economic strength of a country. An increase in exports generally indicates higher production, better technology, strong industrial growth, increased employment. Therefore, economists often use trade performance to assess economic health. For example, China's rapid growth in exports transformed it into one of the world's largest economies. Next question: what is balance of trade? So, balance of trade is the difference between the value of export and imports of a country. So, balance of trade is equal to export minus import. Favorable balance of trade while export is greater than imports, and unfavorable balance of trade while imports is greater than exports. For example, India often imports large quantities of crude oil, which may create a trade deficit. Next question: why do developing countries often experience trade deficits? So, developing countries usually import machinery, technology, petroleum, capital goods, while exporting mainly primary products, and imports become more expensive than exports. Trade deficits occur. For example, many African countries export minerals but import manufactured products. Next question: how does globalization influence international trade? So, globalization increases the movement of goods, services, capital, technology, and information across national boundaries. It reduces barriers to trade and promotes economic integration. For example, a mobile phone may be designed in the USA, manufactured in China, and sold in India. This reflects globalization of production and trade. Next question, what is the role of WTO in international trade? So WTO or World Trade Organization regulates global trade. Its objectives are promoting free trade, reducing trade barriers, resolving trade disputes, ensuring fair competition. For example, when trade disputes arise between countries, WTO provides a platform for negotiation. Next question, what are the major bases of international trade? So major bases, natural resources like minerals, land, climate, water resources, and economic development like technology, capital, skilled labor. For example, Australia exports minerals due to resource abundance. Germany exports machinery because of technological advancement. Next question, how does geographical location influence international trade? So geographical location determines accessibility, transport costs, and connectivity. Countries located along major sea routes often enjoy trade advantages. For example, Singapore became a major trading center because of its strategic location near the Strait of Malacca. Next question, what are trade blocs? Why are they important? So trade blocs are groups of countries that promote trade among themselves by reducing tariffs and trade restrictions. For example, European Union, ASEAN, USMCA. So what is the importance of trade bloc? Greater market access, economic cooperation, and increased trade volume. Next question, what are ports and why are they important in international trade? So ports are gateways through which goods enter and leave a country. They connect sea transport with land transport. Next question, what is the importance of port? So facilitate imports and exports, reduce transport costs, promote economic development. For example, Mumbai port and Jawaharlal Nehru port handle a large volume of India's foreign trade. Next question, what is the difference between a port and a harbor? So a harbor is a sheltered area where ships can anchor safely. A port is a facility where loading, unloading, storage and customs activities take place. For example, every port generally contains a harbor, but every harbor is not necessarily a port. Next question, what are the different types of ports? So comprehensive port that handles all types of cargo, specialized port that handles specific commodities, packet stations handle passenger and mail services. For example, Visakhapatnam is known for handling bulk cargo such as iron ore. Next question, why is sea transport dominant in international trade? So sea transport is cheapest, fuel efficient, suitable for bulk cargo, capable of carrying huge quantities. For example, crude oil, coal and iron ore are mostly transported by sea. Almost 80 to 90% of global trade volume moves through maritime transport. Next question, what are the major sea routes of the world? So important routes include North Atlantic route, Mediterranean Indian Ocean route, Cape of Good Hope route and Trans-Pacific route. For example, the North Atlantic route connects the North America and Europe and carries the large volume of trade. Next question, how does Suez Canal influence world trade? So Suez Canal connects the Mediterranean Sea with Red Sea. It significantly reduces travel distance between Europe and Asia. For example, a ship traveling from London to Mumbai saves thousands of kilometers by using the Suez Canal instead of sailing around Africa. Next question, how does international trade contribute to economic development? So international trade promotes employment generation, industrial growth, foreign exchange earnings, technology transfer. For example, India's IT service exports generate significant foreign exchange and employment. Next question, what are the negative impacts of international trade? So although beneficial, international trade may lead to economic dependence, trade deficits, exploitation of resources, environmental degradation. For example, excessive mining for export purposes may lead to environmental damage. Next question, in your opinion, how can international trade contribute to sustainable development? So international trade contributes to sustainable development when economic growth is balanced with environmental protection and social welfare. Countries should promote green technologies, encourage sustainable production, reduce carbon intensive trade, ensure fair trade practices. For example, trade in solar panels, wind turbines, and renewable energy technologies supports both economic growth and environmental sustainability. So there is a complete gist of the chapter. International trade is the exchange of goods and services between countries. It is the economic barometer of a nation. It arises because countries differ in resources, technology, and development levels. For example, India exports software and pharmaceuticals while importing crude oil. Therefore, international trade promotes specialization, economic growth, and global interdependence. So, thanks for listening. Keep listening for further audio classes. Thank you.